close in. All right. I wonder if maybe the music from the desktop is a little bit too loud. All right. All right, let's see how this is going to work here. So what are we doing today? We're going to be trimming I wonder if you guys can hear, let me know if you guys can hear the cutting of the tool. I can't. Sorry, you're going to hear this buzz pretty loud. Yeah, sorry. Whoops. Alright, let me know if you guys, because this is a directional microphone, so it should be able to, my goal is to be able to, for you guys to hear the cutting. Can you hear the cutting? Is anybody there? Let me know. You can? Oh, sweet. Okay. Do you hear a really high pitch frequency like electric sound? Sounds like an old vinyl. There's music in the background, but other than the music, do you guys... You don't hear high pitch, okay. Sounds like music. Okay, sweet. This is, I mean, I don't know what it's going to sound like. I'll know like later when I go to edit. But I didn't want to like, I wanted to try a couple things. So if you guys think that one part should be a little bit louder. Oops, my finger just jabbed into that. That wasn't pleasant. And I took a big groove out of my thing here. I gotta pay attention. But if you got an idea, like, hey, turn this up, turn this down, let me know. You can kind of see it's trying to jump up a little bit there, right? Again, that's all we're doing is we're just trimming the foot. Also, I only have one above light. So if the lighting's a little bit too dramatic, let me know and I can also fix that. right now we're going to test the thickness. And the reason why I have this, the shape, I have it shaped, right? And trimming feels a little bit weird. I'm feeling the thick and thin parts. And if you can't really see the inside of this vessel, which is a little bit unfortunate, but there's like a secondary groove. All right, maybe if I go back a little bit. No, there's like a secondary groove here, so I'm accounting for that in the trimming. So trimming should always be the idea of you're trying to reveal what is already there. You're not trying to make anew, right? You're not trying to form it the way you want it. You're trying to do right by the form that you made, right, already. And so that's what you got to think of when you're trimming. The thickness, I could go a little bit thinner on the bottom, but I think I'm just going to call this one done. Zoom. Okay. Let's go do the next one. I think that must have been loud for you guys. Camera B. Wheel. So some people do this thing where they will do a trick where they wet this a little bit here, right? And by wetting that, if you have a really even top, you can kind of suction them to the wheel a little bit easier. All right. Close in. And we're not trying to center it to this point. We're trying to center it down here because we're trimming this down to here. If you recall when we were throwing the vessel, at the very end, we kind of made this bottom really uneven, right? So we're trying to tap center the clay. This one is a little bit off no matter what, but we're trying to get it about center to this point here, right? Okay. Gotta do one thing here. I gotta get some more clay. Homogenize the walls. Yeah, that's essentially what you're trying to do when you're like, I think why I'm so particular about when I talk about that is specifically because a lot of people in this phase, they are still trying to determine what the form is going to look like, right? You determined what the form was going to look like while you were throwing it, right? When you homogenize the walls, you're really just trying to make sure that evenness is really nice. I think that's why I never have problems with S-cracks or anything when throwing off the hump, is because I'm always trying to do justice to what I have there, rather than trying to, like I said earlier, make anew. Okay. We'll trim this down a little bit, right? But I did kind of screw up. I didn't really test how thick and where I should trim. You should always test first, but I think while we're here, let's just carve away all the uneven stuff, because we know we got it centered to that bottom line, And so what we're trying to do now is bring up that center point throughout the rest of the vessel here. Right? I'll work from this top edge here. And the key is you don't want it to push your tool around as much as you want to cut through that unevenness, right? In some spots, you're going to notice like it's really uneven. Well, don't allow it to push your hand up and down. Allow the fine edge of the tool to cut really nice and even. Alright, and another thing to think about when you're trimming, right, is you always want to think, first you want to carve your valleys and mountains, and then you want to smooth that stuff out, right? So as you can see right now, there's all these peaks and valleys that I'm cutting in with these little noodles coming off, right? Well, after that, that's when we go in and we smooth that out, right? And so it's always fine line to cut and get depth, and then flat surface to smooth all that stuff out, right? But anyway, I'm going to go test the thickness around in the object now. So I'm going to move this off. I'm going to feel around. So I'm feeling, and I could probably start bringing it in a little bit more here. So making a little nail mark, right? You can see that little mark. I can bring it in get some more depth. I could probably bring it in to right about here, straight down. Okay. And then the foot ring should probably start right about there on the outside. And so I'm just making little nail markers. The nail markers, they make sense to me. I think everybody should think about how they make marks, or how they understand the marks that they make, right? Like when I put the nail markers there, I've noticed that some of my students are like, well, what does that really mean to you? And I'm like, oh wait, like to me it means depth and location, where these things are going, but how do you like show someone that? I think it's more of a feeling at that point, right? So everybody has different ways to do it. I've known some people make little, they get thumbtacks, right? And they cut the thumbtacks to the thickness that they want their vessels to be, and they stab them through, just so you can tell, like, oh, I hit that depth that I'm hitting when I start tagging that little thumbtack with my metal tool, right? Okay, we're just about even. Great. Let's put these little clay things back. You can push down a little bit on this. Okay. Taking this, push, push, push. If you're looking for a more energetic stream, this is not going to be it today. I just have to trim a bunch of things. I actually didn't want to. I think trimming on stream is going to be like not a thing I do, but I just wanted to check out the microphone stuff and see if I could get that working a little bit better. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to go down to this mark here. Like we said, we want to go straight down from here. Alright, second thing we want to do is we see this tack mark here. So we told ourselves the bottom starts here, right? So we can actually bring this in here too. And so you can see when throwing off the hump, you really get such a nice large foot. And normally I don't trim a lot of my stuff, right? But I've learned to appreciate what a large foot can do to a vessel. Talk about objects jumping off of tables. When you see that shadow underneath, it really just wants to pop right off the not off the wheel, the table, and leap into your hand, right? I can imagine if you brought a bunch of cups to like an art fair, right? It'd be cool to do like a sample of like ones that have really tall feet and ones that don't have feet at all, and see which ones that people appreciate more, right? There's something about that little hovering quality that I really do think would make people want to pick up the objects more often. Okay. And I always think that we lose a couple of these pots, because I often like to trim through my pots when I do trim. But think of it not as a failure at that point. Think of it as like one step closer to being able to judge it perfectly. Like, you know how satisfying that is when you're like, ah, right here is where I stop. And you were right. Oh my gosh. Makes me feel like I'm a magician. Feels a little bit thin there, actually. We'll see in a second if it really is. Zoom. And you can see, close in, camera B. There we go. You can see these little lines in there, right? So it's always that kind of wax on, wax off dealio. Instead of wax on, wax off, I guess it's peaks and valleys and smoothing it out. So wouldn't be a good from forest to farmland, right? Flat farmland. Yes, this is a new wheel. So you guys can't hear that super buzzing. They really, I know you guys couldn't hear it loud, but I promise you it was so loud. This one's way quieter, but I can still hear a little bit. So I don't know if I just need to keep on working it in a little bit, and then that will slowly go away. So we're just going to go with it for a little. I think we have just about done. Slowly smooth this outside one more time. To end things off, I always like to hit a little bit of this edge with some water. It's actually not too bad. Alright. Zoom. So all I'm doing here is I'm just trying to hit this edge, and you can see I'm trying to move my hands with the rotation so that I don't put any unnecessary force, just so I can dance up that rim a tad there, right? I actually kind of screwed some things up on the bottom though. Okay. There we go. So this is it. Close in. Camera B. Alrighty. So we're liking this one. I think it's pretty close to being trimmed. Not perfectly, but pretty decent. Actually, I could go a little bit more. I know I could stop. And I really, most positively, I probably should have stopped. But you ever have those moments where you just can't stop? You overwork something? This is one of those moments for me. But don't talk me out of it. I just feel like when I'm thinking about center of gravity of an object, right? I want it to be a little bit further up on the object. I know I have to worry about this has a whole bottom and the other side doesn't, right? But any way that you can kind of get that weight out of there is going to help you out a little bit. Like, I almost want it to feel like it's balanced after liquid's inside of it, right? Alright. Now it should be good. Sorry, guys. I had to do that. I wouldn't have been able to sleep. There we go. That's enough. On to the next. And then, the fun part with this is after I finish these, then we have to... Here's the next one we're going to do. After I finish these, then I get to do the exciting stuff, like put the handles on. And I think I've really been liking the way that the handles look on these. And make sure I keep the handles wet. I want the handles to almost be soft, right? I found that's the best way to have them attach properly. I also made a couple new wet boxes. So, there we go. Was it hard to learn how to tap center? No. I had a professor who I said, I want to learn how to do that, right? and he was drinking a soda. And he handed me a can and said, well, center this, right? And so I just sat there and I tried to center this can. And he filled up with just a little bit of water, right? But I sat there for like, I don't know, like 2 to 3 hours trying to just tap center this, just tap center the music, right? And I didn't get it at all. But then I told myself, well, if I didn't get it that first time, what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start just trying to tap center every time I do center, right? And so I'd tap center until it was like, it felt like I was spending too much time on the piece, and then I would just stop and then center it with like a little needle tool. But eventually I could just do it. And so that's what I'd always recommend, right? Do something you can't for a little bit every time, and then finish the piece when it gets to be a little bit too long. But if you just try to do it every time, eventually it's going to start working for you, right? Okay. So I didn't feel this one out that much either. That one's okay. Because again, that's all we're going to do is first just bring in this thickness and try to get everything evened out, because this top I can already tell is going to be a nightmare to work with. Okay, but here I am. So you can see me just slowly walking that in, right? Try not to allow that big groove to screw with me, right? And this is why trimming a little bit softer when you're throwing off the hump is really nice. How long did it take me to learn, though? Maybe like half a year. Half a year, I would say, after I started trying to learn. Jack said, functional wear. Did you switch? I just haven't put the handles on yet. The handles are going to be the thing that brings it back to Pottery Demon Land. I feel like it almost seems like it's almost thin, or there's a hard piece of grog in the middle there. No, I didn't switch. I was just doing that. I finished the tree project, so that was sometimes in August, I think I finished that, or September. And so I've just been making random stuff. Right now, I made some vases early in fall. Then I've been doing a lot of water whistles. I made some weird tea-bowl, teacup hybrid things that kind of function like teapots, but without the spouts. But right now, I've just been liking throwing off the hump. I've been trying to live stream a little bit more, so it's been kind of nice to just sit down with a giant chunk of clay, start centering that, to work on that a little bit, and then, I can just throw whatever. Did you finish me? What did finish mean? How did you know you're done? Because I told myself I would have done the trees every day for a year. And so I did trees every day for a year. And so after I hit that year, I was like, well, I can either sit here, do the same thing, or I can keep moving on, because that's what it was. It was just a project, right? I can bring this down a little bit deeper, way deeper than what I thought, actually. And I can bring this across. I can bevel this edge down too. So we can bevel the edge down, and we can bring this pretty thick down there. Okay. Back to tap centering this. What are your plans for the future? How far are we talking? Is this like one of those high school classes where they have you plan like 3, 5, and 10 years down the future? Or down the line? Okay. For the immediate future, I'm just going to be doing more streams. I've been making a lot of the water whistles and posting a lot of water whistle content, but then somebody commented, they're like, bro, the water whistles are cool and all, but like, I followed because I wanted to see you throw, right? And I was like, well, you know what? Like, that's the only reason I do this stuff, is to throw. So as much as I like making the water whistles, like, the only reason I do the pottery thing is because the throwing is bearable, you know? Like, that's the thing I enjoy. And so I gotta make sure I keep making throwing content. Meanwhile, here I am trimming, right? Alright, so again, we're trying to bring this little foot ring in a little bit, right? And the key with this is we don't want to bring it in too much that when you fill it up, that a little tap is going to push it over, right? And so there's like a certain narrowness that you can do before it becomes a hindrance. And then we also have a certain depth here that we're trying to achieve. You can see first we carve these lines in. And then we smooth those lines out. Just bought a pottery studio. Any advice? Like a whole studio, like just for yourself, or you're teaching classes out of it? What kind of system you got set up there, you know? Do you have a whole wheel kiln thing? Or what? Someone said, "What's up, Mr. Demon?" And then they said, "Are you a wizard?" Not yet. I need 30 more years until my beard will start to get gray. And then I need to find someone who's going to make me a really nice, like, I want somebody who does cowboy hats to do like a one-off wizard hat that's really big, right? Like an oversized wizard hat with the lining that the interior is green, like a green screen green. And then I'm going to keep growing my beard out. And I'll wear that hat, and then that'll be my throwing hat. And then I'll be a wizard. I'm like wizard in training. I'm studying right now to become a wizard. Been teaching classes for 8 months. The owner just left and we bought it. It's got an electric kiln. That's exciting. Well then, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you seem like you're in a good spot. It is definitely probably a scary thing. I would say don't write off how important the small stuff are. Like having nice test tiles, right? Even if the test tiles are done already, for all the different glazes you guys have or whatever, having test tiles, new ones, shows people that you're putting effort into the studio. Any small thing that you can do to show the people who are there that you're putting effort in, right? Other than just cleaning up, right? I think is pretty good, right? Because you want people to feel like they're going into the space that the people who work there actually care about, right? I think sometimes, depending on the studio, there can be sort of an attitude of, I'm just coming here and just working and then that's it, right? I think any way that you can kind of show that you're doing a little bit more is good. That's my thing. Make a clay hat, like a pottery hat. I think that'd be pretty cool. I just don't know what is in here. It's like a little hard rock of grog or something is driving me crazy. I know that's probably not a good thing I did there, but... Alright, I think I got that out. I think I'm liking this. But this is the thing I don't like about trimming is, like, look how long I've spent trimming this thing. If I would have spent, like, in the same time that I'd done this, I could have made 3 more of these vessels. That's the thing that I can't get past with trimming. You can get faster with it, but you know what the fastest way to trim is to not trim. Is to throw your things thinner and not off the hump, maybe. Off the hump makes things kind of unnecessary to trim, I would say. I'm sure somebody could prove me wrong on that. You could probably, like, learn to cut the things off the wheel so thin that it's as if you didn't need to trim when you're throwing off the hump, you know? I feel like you can do that normally. The only thing that's stopping you from doing it off the hump is maybe you gotta be a little bit more exact, right? Okay. Got this little noodle here that I gotta get rid of, but other than that, I think I like this one. You purely dislike trimming because you can't tap center? That is valid. I feel like if I couldn't tap center, I definitely wouldn't trim. There's something that, like, I would like to take this off. I like to feel this, feel the thickness, and I like to set it back down and just instantly get back. If I have to line it up every time, that would really stop what I'm doing. Okay. So, we have three things trimmed. We got a lot more to do. Dang. I'm really not looking forward to this. Wheel? So, see that we have a little bit of unevenness here. Okay. Feel that thickness. You can go decently deep here, right? Can take this whole edge off from that point too. And then where can we start tapering in? We can start tapering in right about there. Zoom. Part of me thinks maybe I should raise this camera up a little bit so you can see more of the wheel, but then also part of me likes how thin this visual space is here, like this little sandwich. And I like not being able to see the edge of this. So those are some things I do appreciate about this setup. But I think this wheel's a little bit taller than the other one. Okay. we're trying to center it right about here. We don't care if this is off center because this is where we're bringing our trimmed line down to. Alright, I would say this is probably close enough. Alright, this clay is a little bit hard, so we're going to get some new clay. Alrighty. We said hi to everybody in the chat. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you. Hope you're also having a good day. Okay. Also, I know you guys might not like it as much as me, right? But do you see how the light is reflecting off of the orange bat onto my hands here? I just think it just looks so warm. See how thin these little noodles are? Do you still make trees, or are you done with that project for now? I'm done with that project, but the twist from the trees will definitely make its way in other things, right? The twist is a technique, right? But the actual form of the tree will be different. But the twist will probably come back in some ways, especially in the water whistles. I've been thinking about that connecting tube in the middle part of the water whistle. That can definitely be a spot for a tree twist to be. How did I first discover the twist? Probably I had a teacher who was making, I can actually remember the exact cup. It was like it's like a tin clearish white glaze, right? And somebody had this copper green glaze, and so the tin clear white would blush red from the copper in reduction. And this cup was in the shape of a square. And the way that they got the square, right, say if you have a circle, they lifted their fingers up at these spots, at each four in a pattern, and got it to become a square on the top, right? If they pulled up here, here, and here. And so that was one thing. And then I saw like, oh, that's what you do. You just bring your hand up quick as you're going around, right? And then I saw that you could actually collapse your forms. There's a couple of people who do that already, right? the obvious one is like George Orr, but I also think it's kind of more trendy. And then I had some people from India tell me that there's some forms down there that did that. So whatever, you know. But then I was like, oh, you can literally just pull those up and then hold the piece, like literally hold the piece or the tension from bringing it out, because I was watching like Japanese potters do the faceting, like they do the faceting and then they have it just a really almost like a nuclear reactor form, right? And they push out and they'll twist everything, right? And I was like, oh, well, if I push out on the top, then that would twist up, and then that's where the trees kind of came from, right? And I was doing things like the trees before, but I was doing them with a spiral pole, right? And so, right before I started the trees, if you look back at my really old, some of my first videos on the channel, you'll see a lot of like some more spiraling things. And then all of a sudden, if you look through the thumbnails, you'll see one that's like, looks more like the tree. And then a couple of videos later, I was like, well, let's start this project. Okay, I think I actually went a little bit too deep here, but we'll see this in a second. Alrighty. Fascinating. I've done the twist now ever since I saw you, but you have mastered it. I don't know about the mastering it thing, to be honest. I still, out of all of my trees, I mean, you can look at the videos, I have a lot that were total mess-ups. But that's part of it. Why the frick is this not coming off? There we go. Alright, so we have some thickness on the bottom still, so we're actually not too thin. We can bring the rest of it down to about here. We can take off this little thing. You have faith in your hands when performing it. I definitely do have faith, right, in that. But I think that's part of it. Whatever you do, like, I think you gotta, I think of it's like a personal self-gaslighting, you know? In a lot of cases it can be bad, but you can kind of use gaslighting in a positive way, I think, if you're using it against yourself, maybe. And you can, like, believe that every time I'm there, I'm going to make the perfect tree, right? And if I believe in it, and I just have the faith that that movement is going to work, then you just build up that confidence to do it. And then, you know, you might not have, like, it might not be perfect, you know, like, maybe 20% of the time you get it, right? But in that 20% of the time, you feel like you just, like, are commanding the earth itself. Right? But I think that's not necessarily just a pottery wheel thing. Like, I think you can do that same mentality in a lot of things. Somebody says hi, hello. Alright, again, we actually got it off a little bit, and I think too what happened is when I was pulling this off, I actually think I distorted that bottom just a tad. Also, I think we don't have any music right now, but maybe that'll be good. We'll have a play with no music for a second. Bring this down. And again, you'll see this little line, and I'm looking at this line on the right side of my tool, and I'm saying hello. And you're sort of just taking on a little ride around the object here. And just don't, if you don't see that line, then don't continue, right? You're always kind of looking for these moments. You're trying to, like, hear and visually see what the clay is telling you. Sometimes you can feel the clay, especially when you're throwing, but, you know, other times when you are trimming, you can actually visually see these things. Yes, I've noticed your lack of fear when you throw admirable. Well, I will say that, you know, I think I'm kind of okay with messing up in front of you guys. I really think if I screw up somehow, you know, what I don't like is I don't like. This might sound weird, okay? So let me begin with that. But I don't like how popular it is to be really positive about failing, right? Like when I fail, like I want to feel like I failed. You know, like that's actually a good feeling to have, is like when I mess up to feel disheartened about it. Obviously people can be hard on themselves or whatever, but I think being hard on yourself and then leaving that difficulty in your mind in a negative spot is very different than being hard on yourself and then using it as like a jumping off point to start again or to start anew or to build up upon. And so like when I fail in front of it, I don't want to highlight the failures as like a oopsie, you know, like haha. I want it to be like, ah, oh, dang, you know, like I want it to have a little bit more weight to it. But sometimes failures are funny, so I won't be too opinionated, I guess. I'll try to maintain neutrality a little bit. Every once in a while, the pottery demon mentality likes to try to take over a little bit. Can you say hi to my girlfriend Grace? For me, we're big fans. It's nice of you to be a fan. It's kind of, I don't know, sure. Hello, Grace. Thank you for being my fan. I don't know if I like the word fans, though. You know, like, we're just people hanging out. Me too. I really enjoy the different nuances of my different failures, like a good espresso or wine. Yes, I totally agree. I like your understanding on it. I will say that those nuances really end up dictating what I make, and I think those nuances are the things that generate new things when you're having those conversations with your work, right? But yeah, I agree with you. Again, we're kind of carving out some of the stuff of this interior. We can probably take this a little bit deeper. Oh, we're getting to that point now where this tool, it likes to, fall down a little bit like it did right there. But I think realistically, we'll actually probably leave that. Yeah, we'll leave that the way that is. Because I think if we try to go any deeper, we're just going to end up carrying that little screw up all the way down to the bottom. And so I know you guys can't really see what I did, but sometimes when I am tilting this tool, I lean it too far down and then it hits on the edge of the foot here. And so it bumps this up really quick, or it creates a little weird undulation where the tool is touching. And so it can kind of screw up some things. But when it's just a little thing, I don't think it's really screwing up, and it almost is like on the brink of looking intentional. So we'll just let it hang out a little bit there. These little boogers off of there. Can we see? Camera B? Camera B? Close in. Do you see that side, how one side has that cast that shadow, and if I rotate it around, you see how it no longer has that shadow? So you can see that it got a little bit uneven. I tapped it in a little bit too much there, right? But the weight is pretty good. We're liking the interior, right? We like the silhouette of it's okay. Zoom. But here we go, guys. Another one. For some reason I'm going to say no one bites the dust, but that was like, I don't know. I think sometimes I got to keep those, my cringe thoughts internal. I don't know how much cringe I'm willing to put out into the world. Again, we have another thing here. This has a little bit of a weird bottom to it, but that thickness I think should start there on this end. We can bring it all the way down to here. Okay. The bottom is right about there. Okay. It's kind of like a bell. Sarah R says, looks like a lid for something. It does kind of look like a lid. Somebody said a bell. I do make pottery bells. I've made a couple. This does look like if I just put a little handle on this, that's it, right? When you're tap starting, what are you looking for or feeling for? Alright, I'm gonna say something, and it's gonna be judgy, right? There's a video online where it's somebody who, they have like this whole diagram, and there's like a clock, and they're telling in their mind, like playing like Staying Alive by whatever the band is, and then like bump, 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 and then like that same cadence, and then they're like, when it hits your hand at 5 o'clock, you're jamming your hand in on the other side at 9 o'clock, and you have a feeler, and you know, that works for them. Great, you know. But for me, like, I'm not looking for something, and the only thing I'm feeling for is when the resistance and the banging against my fingers goes away, or when it visually looks centered. I know that's it's a terrible way to explain it, but I will say that if you're looking for like a phrase or a sentence that's going to make you like all of a sudden feel like you're going to get it, this is one of those things where you have to do your own self-investigation. Like, are you one of those people who learns from like verbal poetry of like a setup or a construction of words to make you understand? Or are you someone who learns from like doing it or visually seeing it or feeling it? For me, those words, the phrases and things, they don't help me. It's only through doing it enough until I feel it does that really help me. I also like watching people. Sometimes watching people helps me out a little bit. But yeah, you know, I think a lot of it is I have downward pressure a little bit, and when I tap, I'm thinking about spanking a hamster, right? Like, it was a bad hamster, it ate your power cable to your phone or something, you know, like, I can tell you that's how hard I'm pushing onto it, but the size of your object is going to change too, so it's going to, you know, it was a hamster, now you're hitting a guinea pig. You're hitting a guinea pig. It's so funny. I'm gonna have this video flagged for promoting violence against animals. Somebody's gonna have a pet hamster, and they're gonna say, sorry, like, Pottery Demon told me to do it. And the guinea pig is just gonna, like, curse me or something. I went too far down that rabbit hole. I apologize. But yeah, spanking a hamster. That's the pressure. Let's see what I'm doing here with this little tool. It's camera B. Alrighty. As you can see how I'm just walking on the surface with this little corner of this tool, right? I love corners. People who trim with round things, I don't know how you do it. I love corners, and I like this idea that I'm just walking this tool around the object. I'm picking a side to press down on a little bit, and I'm feeling it kind of grab onto that clay, right? And then we're going to go down a little bit deeper in the middle here. We're going to go down a little bit deeper. Probably don't have that much more depth. We'll go one more time. And then we're going to start thinking about getting this even. The top is actually not even perfectly even here yet. That's okay. And now we're going to flip it over. Alright. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Feeling the weight. So I have quite a bit of thickness on this bottom. Wow, okay. If I can bring this even more here. So I put a little mark. The depth of our foot, we actually can go down a little bit lower. But the distance of our foot, I think, is kind of nice. The diameter of it, I mean. So do you see I'm pushing down with this finger? Think of it, it's like you ever played air hockey? It's kind of like air hockey, right? Think about how, like, from when you're hitting this thing, it's hovering just a second, right? And then the force pushing down a little bit here is allowing it to kind of grip back onto this table or the wheel head. And when it's at center, it's all of a sudden just going to rest there. It almost feels like it's like a very weak magnet to the centered zone, right? I think you just gave me the word you believe didn't exist. I understand it now. Alright, sweet. I feel like there's one thing I've learned about my analogies, is I have so many of them. I feel like if you just listen to me long enough, you'll finally understand something I say. Right? Like, I think sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. It's a little bit actually too uneven here, right? It's actually not even totally centered where I want it to be. I think a lot of times, a lot of people's largest mistake when they're throwing or when they're trimming, they're trying to take off too much material too fast. And you know what's funny is oftentimes it's the same people who have that problem also have the problem of ripping the bottoms of their pots when they're throwing, right? Because think about it, you're trying to move too much material. That's translated through not only trimming but throwing. And so when you're throwing and you're trying to move too much material at once, you might end up with a thin spot right below a thick spot, and that's where you're ripping these things all off, right? And so try to break up what you would normally do. If that happens to you, like you rip the bottoms of your pots off a lot and you end up with like a thick rim and then really thin below it, stop trying to move all that at once. Take it off in layers like an onion. Like an onion. It's like the Shrek thing. A cake has layers, right? How does that quote even go? It's like Donkey saying, cake has layers. Yeah, Shrek, but you're more like an onion. That's how I imagine that quote going. But I know that's not it. So if I can't quote it, I don't know why I brought it up. But again, I'm going to bring this down, this middle part. Again, my hand is so light on the vessel, right? But I'm trying not to remove that much material, right? So you can still see I get these little lines on there. And I slowly push down just a little bit just to take those peaks right off and bring the peaks all the way down to the valleys. Awesome. All right. I like the thickness that we got going on this though, so I think we're gonna leave it like this. I once had a professor say that the thickness of your foot should reflect the thickness of your rims. I don't really do that, but that is what I was told to do. I can bring this down a little bit more. Alright, this is the last. This is the last little adjustment I gotta make. Wheel? Okay. Oh. How much just fell? I don't know what time it is. So part of me thinks that I should probably try to call it soon. I still got a lot more to trim, but maybe what I'll do is, I'd hate for me to stream for like 3 hours, and then all of a sudden I look and I check the video and it's not really the audio that I want. It might sound good to you guys, and that's awesome. But sometimes, like, there's certain nuances, right? In the same way that when I'm feeling this object, there's certain things that I like know about it. Like I can feel that thickness there. It's the same thing. There's certain sounds, like when I hear it, I can be like, oh, that's like the light from above me. I need to turn that off or something, right? So there's some nuances that you guys might not be hearing just because you don't know the studio setup, right? Alright, I guess we are going thinner with this. So I want to do some editing. I gotta still edit the one live stream I did like 2 days ago. I edited the other two from the 2 days before that. Not that one yet. And that's all we did. Was I actually wanted to see more of the interior of this, and I thought that the foot ring could be a little bit thinner. So that's what I changed. And hopefully that gets just enough of the weight out of this object for me to feel like it's in a good spot. Alright. Just close in. Close in. Okay. Do you guys know what Pokemon Go is? You watch my shorts, but you like the lives. Interesting. I wonder if I should start live streaming on other platforms too. Or maybe I just spoil you guys with just only the YouTube. I just like YouTube so much. I think Twitch, I don't know if Twitch is really my area, you know? Just I'm not sure. I'm gonna trim one more. Fine. I'll trim another one. Sometimes when I just feel these. But I also think that my uncle kept telling me that I gotta do TikTok. But I don't know. It's just difficult. I just feel like when I was a kid, I really liked YouTube, so it feels most natural for me to do the YouTube. But Twitch turns people bad. Are you saying that all of a sudden when I get on Twitch, I'm going to turn into a real pottery demon? I actually feel like your guys' perspective of me is only in pottery world too, right? You guys might not like me as a person if you were to ever meet me. So always keep that in mind. Like this is, right now I am performing the pottery demon. So maybe I already am bad. Dun dun dun. It's the suspense. The famous ones, their souls are corrupted. Dang, their souls are corrupted, yo. Dang. This person plays Terraria. You know what that is? It's a game. But souls are corrupted is very like video gamer coded, I feel like. But do you guys know the Pokemon Go? Does nobody know what that is? At work today, you know, I was actually trying to be like really productive, and I was making some things, and I was mixing some glazes, but I had to go out to my car, right? And when I was out there, like 8 cars just like pulled into the parking lot, right? I was like, dang, what's going on? Like, all these people are like came here, you know? And I should preface that I work, it's like a museum. At this location, it's like a museum, right? So I thought they were there to just go see the museum, right? And then they weren't. Like, I went back inside and I came back out to my car, they were still there. And then I was like, wait, what are these people doing? You know? Like, I was kind of curious. So I started listening in on their conversation when I was walking by to my car. And they were talking about Pokemon Go, right? So how cool is that? Like, to some people, like, Pokemon Go is whatever. You know, they would probably make fun of it. But how cool is this that a game on a cell phone brings people together in a location to do something together as a collective to get an award or a reward for that. Like, that is just such a cool, like, whatever you think about Pokemon and all this other stuff, how cool is that as like an app and technology, like, is bringing people together in a real tangible way. This guy was just going around to all the cars, starting conversations and asking people about their favorite Pokemon, and I think he was a dad. His son was just like in the, the passenger seat, just playing on his Nintendo Switch, you know? Like, it's so cool. Like, I don't know. I think it's cool that it does, like, that happens in the real world, you know? Are they interacting collectively? They are in the game, but you can also see that, like, in person, they'll get out and interact and talk with each other. Even some of the most shy ones, like, people just knock on the door, like, "Are you here for the raid or whatever?" I just think it's so cool. Like, it's so friendly. Like, I know that happens in other ways, but just the fact that it's a mobile game and does that, I think it's cool. You've witnessed it here where you live too. Ah, yeah, I think it's awesome. I swear people died from Pokemon Go in the UK. We were trying to make it a good thing. Now you added more suspense. But yeah, you're probably right. I can imagine it would result in some bad things. Worlds within worlds. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna put on some more music here. You guys, I don't know. I know I'm gonna stop soon, right? But finding that time to stop is a little bit difficult. I keep thinking of things to talk about. All right. Do we want something ethereal? Do we want something piano? Do we want something ambient? I'll let you guys decide here in a second. Ethereal, piano, or ambient? First one is piano. We're doing that. You guys know. Franz Liszt. We'll have some Franz Liszt. My favorite composer. An interesting backstory that I only know because of YouTube. Because some person on YouTube made a video about it. Actually, I'm not that into classical music, other than the fact that I watch YouTube. You know. What are we making here specifically? You want to see? I'll show you what these things look like when they're done. So I made a bunch of these little squiggle handles, right? Wheel? YouTube is your professor? I agree. So I made a bunch of these little squiggles. Space. Space. Okay. So I made a bunch of these. So it's just a normal base form with these weird squiggle handles. And that's really all I'm doing. So right now I'm just trimming the bottoms. And then tomorrow I'll be attaching the handles on. So that's what I'm doing. These handles were inspired by jelly fungus. If you've never seen a jelly fungus, look it up. They even grow in winter, which is crazy that fungus grows in super cold. But it's like think of like a wet gummy bear on a log. That's what it looks like. You said you microdose learning, hitting those receptors. I know, it makes people think that I'm smart when I just bring up random things. But I don't do it to sound smart. I feel like you shouldn't watch those videos because you want to sound smart. You should, well, maybe there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you should just enjoy watching the videos. But I'm not going to judge people that hard. If they want to just impress people, whatever. It's like snot jelly. Yes, totally. I agree. Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. Close in. Close in. Here we go. Alright, so we got the foot kind of defined here. We're going to feel the inside of the vessel one more time. How much lower can we go? We can go a little bit lower. We also can take that foot ring in a little bit. And we can push this center down a little bit more. We're also going to do a little water seal on this. You can see, just getting some water on there. Holding the top. There's nothing like just seeing it kind of just snap right into place. There we go. Give it a little push down and that water will kind of suction it to there. So if you wanted, you could just start going now, but I find that my clay or the water kind of dries underneath of it. And if they're not perfectly even, it's going to screw things up. Somebody asked me, how much clay do I eat? I haven't eaten clay in a couple months, maybe a little bit more than that. Some of my students wanted me to eat some clay with them. Ooh, fungus is me. I've seen a yellow one before, right? I think the fungus is cool. Are those little pieces of like snack for you? No. But I will say, if you're gonna try, it'd probably be a little piece. I drink a lot of tea. I prefer Japanese and Chinese style cups, no handle. Do you ever make those? I make stuff like that sometimes. But I don't know. Sometimes those are usually just because like a friend's mom wants something, you know. But you could probably use some of these things I'm making right now and just leave the handle off. But I don't know. I feel like then it's too usable. Does that make sense? Like, I kind of enjoy making things a little bit unusable. Like recently I've been glazing my jars shut. I visited a friend and they put these like pencils and stuff in my jar, and I'm not the type of person to be like, my objects are too good to be pitting pencils, and because I don't think like that, right? But I was like, wait, people actually you pit stuff in this stuff in my things? Like, I don't like that. Like, I just want it to be its own thing. So then I've been making these like lids, and I've just been glazing the lids like shut on my objects so you can't open them. And no, they don't explode when you do that. Or at least none of mine have, I should say. I don't want to say that and then somebody ruins the piece that they've done. What kind of clay to use? I use B-Mix, but I love the way your clay looks. It's a dark stoneware, and it has a little bit more grog in it than what you'd think. But I like that grog in there because first it gives me, it feels more like carving when I throw rather than, for example, with B-Mix. Sometimes it feels like, I think B-Mix and like porcelain, I know B-Mix is like a stoneware, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care about the semantics of it, but regardless, I feel like that stuff is for like people who participate clay. Here, wheel, like waterbenders, right? Like B-Mix is waterbender. Stoneware, and stoneware with grog, is earthbender. Like, I feel like when I'm throwing, I'm carving the form rather than shaping a form. Like when I'm using any other thing. Do I sell my stuff? No, I do not. Do not sell my stuff. I have sold my stuff, but it's only because I had a couple that after a show they wanted to meet me, and they met me and they really enjoyed my work. And I think I talked to them for like 3 hours about like my ideas on making and stuff. And if you would see my living situation, you'd think I'm a hoarder because I got all my pots kind of just everywhere. And so I think they liked that, and they invited me to their house for dinner, and they asked to buy some of my work, right? And so I got to eat like these amazing, like, just like, I don't know what it was. It was like a bacon, cream, dried fruit thing. But I tried some of that, and they bought some of my work. But I don't normally sell my stuff. That was just a special occasion because they really made me feel like they wanted my things, and they were nice people, right? Avatar is goated. That's the best way I've heard someone explain that difference. That's so funny. Alright, close in. How did I meet them? I had my work. I was doing this show where I was making a bunch of pieces, and I used this big CNC wood mill, and I made these like French cleat box creations that didn't need any hardware in them to be put together, like a puzzle that you put up on the wall that were shelves that held objects like my pottery up. And I was really trying to, I had a teacher once. I was in school, I did drawing, right? I was a drawing major in school, and I would always just pin my paper up on the wall, right? And my teacher one time said, wow, you really don't consider display at all. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you literally just hang it up on the wall. And I was like, well, the wall is the display. And they're like, yeah, that's the problem, And I was like, oh, what? So now, instead of just putting pottery on a pedestal, like, I wanted to make my own display, because I kind of understood that, display really matters. And I didn't want my work to be viewed as within the realm of pottery by being on a pedestal, right? I was being a little bit nonconformist, so I apologize. Sometimes I get in that combative zone where if somebody does one thing, then I like to do the exact opposite. It's such a toxic trait of mine, actually. Even when I play video games, I'll purposely always pick the worst character just because I'm so stubborn and I don't want to be a bandwagoner. Alright. You can see I'm just taking off the skin of the clay, right? I like the idea of it being skin, even though it seems kind of gross actually, so maybe I don't like that. But like when I mean skin, I mean like everyone, like my students will sometimes still do this. They'll take glue and put the glue on their skin like Elmer's glue, and then they'll let it dry, and they'll be like, "Look, I'm peeling off my skin. I'm a lizard. I'm shedding." And I always think that's pretty funny, you know. But that's what I mean, like that's the thickness that you're taking off of anyway, right? It's like take glue on your hand and then wait 30 minutes and then peel it off. That's like the amount that I'm taking off at a time. At this finishing stage here, I'm gonna do one more little carve down here. Alright, done. Done. Oh, the weight on this one is just lovely. Okay. Zoom. You know, even though I have the bottom, and you're trying to get your piece totally even, right? I understand that, but keep in mind that if you can make this a little bit lighter here, when you fill liquid in your object, the liquid can balance it out. And what I think a lot of people get wrong is thinness is objective, right? But the feeling of weight is subjective, right? The feeling of it. So when you have something that's a little bit thinner on the bottom and thicker on the top, and you lift that up, and that center of gravity is up taller, even if the piece weighs a pound, it's going to feel lighter than if it was totally even or even a little bit more weighted towards the bottom, right? Do you polish with stones sometimes? Never. I just, ow, my knee just buckled. I don't know. I've never thought I've made something. Like, if I wasn't glazing them, maybe I would do that. But no, I don't really do it too often. I know some people really like it, but sometimes I think I haven't noticed that big of a difference in my own work to merit the use of it often. That was a good way to say that, I feel like. But yeah, I think the feeling of weight, like what I was saying before, is really important. It's more important than the actual weight, like the actual tangible weight of the object. It's not as important as the feeling of it. Even a pot that is like 1.5 pounds might feel like a 1 pound cup if you make it a little bit thinner towards that bottom and have it thicker towards the top. And then like when you put that liquid in there and it evens it out, oh my gosh, it feels like it's weightless sometimes. So, I don't know. Yeah. think that's so important. At least on these, I'm making it important. I actually gotten pretty good at throwing a cup and making it thin enough all the way around that it doesn't merit trimming, right? But I think that makes people think like I don't know how to trim, so I'm not doing this because I want to prove to you guys that I can trim. Well, that is a byproduct of me doing this, right? But it's because this form demands that sort of treatment, right? And so everything I think we do, everything that I want to do with my work, I always want it to be to the preferment of the object that's being created, right? And so if I feel like this thing is telling me it needs to be trimmed a certain way, or I need to be doing something, like I really try to listen to that, even if I feel like it's a little bit brutal sometimes, because I don't like trimming, because in the time it's taken me to trim all these, I could have made a bunch more objects, right? Sometimes it's worth, when you're trying to work on something, to work outside your comfort zone a little bit. Also, like if you're trying to teach, it helps out people if you know how to do a lot of different things. Like yesterday, sometimes I'll teach some people who are a little bit more advanced, and I view them as a challenge to see if I can surprise them with something. So I was throwing a bunch of handles. A lot of people pull their handles, or they extrude, or they use some sort of tool for their handles. But for me, I've been throwing them right off the wheel, throwing handles, and I don't think a lot of pottery people get to see that as much. And so I got to surprise a couple of those people who are a little bit more advanced, which I always think is important, right? I don't know, sometimes when people take classes, I understand that you want to take something that fits in your schedule, but there comes a point where I feel like, like if you just come in and then you're just doing your own thing, it's fine, really, right? But I'm there to teach, like, I want to teach you something, that's why I'm there. And so when people like take a beginner's class but they're not beginners, I'm like, there's too much going on. I gotta do too much like hopping around to like beginners to intermediate that I don't have a lot of time to do the things for the advanced people. So usually at the end of the class I'll show the advanced people something. How do you throw a handle at the wheel? I hate pulling handles and haven't been taught other methods. Now you're making me want to throw. Is there a day that you'd be? I don't know if it's too much to ask. If you have my, I'm not trying to make you touch the notification bell or something. I'm not like that. But if you do, the next time I stream, I'll definitely do a throwing session. Maybe if I don't stream more trimming tomorrow, and I'll show you how to do that. No, not even those ones, Joyce Watson. Those are my squiggles. Like, I actually mean normal handles, throwing them. Okay, you already are? Okay, I'll do that for you next time, then I'll make sure I show you. Because I think it's a really cool tool, and you could get good at it. And then I have this coworker, she's from Germany, right? And she was telling me that there is a certain type of German wood turning that is kind of similar to it, and I thought that was kind of awesome too. Oh, I love these questions. If you were to have a 5-course meal, oh, I thought you were gonna ask me like a real meal. You're still in the clay eating thing. They asked if you were to have a 5-course meal, what clay would be the entree? So I'm going to revert that question and just say a meal rather than just clay, right? And I would say that my entree would be My entree probably be a steak with some mushy, like really overcooked asparagus on the side, and maybe some rice as well. And then I set the steak on top of the rice, and so by the time I'm done eating the steak and kind of eating it with some of the rice, that all the juices fell into the rice, and then it flavors the rice. It's so good. But my favorite clay is probably this stuff. It's like this red-brown clay with grog. Alrighty. Now what are we thinking about this right here? We kind of like that. Oh, you can see I gotta angle this up a little bit taller. And there we go. Alright. We kind of like this. Camera B. Oh wow, we have... Oh, we're not even close. We're not even close. Wow, that's how thick this is. I can really bring that in that much. What about this bottom? Yeah. Wow, this is going to be a tall foot on this one. Laugh out loud, you're sorry. Your work is really nice. Aw, thank you. Don't worry, I get it. The clay eating thing, it's gonna be there for a while, I feel like. Every once in a while I have somebody who subscribed from that short pop in, and then they'll give me the business about eating clay. I really don't mind though. Think about it this way, out of all the things to be known for on the internet, that's very tame. If you were going traveling, what country would be at the top of the list to see? I think I would like to go to Finland, actually. I actually have a couple of friends that live in Finland, and so I think I'd like to visit them. And it seems like the vibe is something that I would like. So I can imagine myself being there for a little bit. Alright, camera B. Close in. My friend just started his military service in Finland going this summer. It's exciting. You should tell him to travel around. I've seen a lot of really beautiful places in Finland, like when I look at it online. And to get photos. But tell him not to just take photos of the places. Tell him to take photos of the places with him in the photos. Alright, so you can see how much we're bringing this down, right? And again, you can see that little line that I'm slowly walking back in. And we're going to take that up, right? And look at these little noodles. Like angel hair pasta. Like, there's a place in China, it's like the noodle capital of China, right? and these guys have just like a like a handful of dough, and they cut noodles off of the dough with like a little knife, and they're like the perfect size. It almost looks like they're peeling a potato, but instead of potato skins, it's noodles that go into like a steaming hot broth. Man, I would love to eat that. You grew up never seeing snow, so there's a big difference. Oh, I can imagine. I haven't seen snow like how I've seen snow in my childhood in a long time. And like when I was a kid, I remember when I visit family, there'd be snow taller than the cars. Like a car would be parked on the road, and the snow on the side of the road is taller than the car, right? Like you could build tunnels through the snow. Like I just remember snow was so much larger, but I haven't really seen a crazy snow like that in a while. One day I hope to move to be near big snows again. Okay, well, Franz Liszt is freaking cooking right now. You guys hear this guy? Literally having a piano solo. I'll tell you guys about my dubious turn it up slightly. Oh, I can totally do that. I can totally do that. Is this good? Let me know if that's too loud. But this guy is cooking right now. Alrighty. You could probably season the clay with underglaze to make it look more edible. Yeah, they're so funny. Did I ever go skiing? Oh boy. I don't even know if I should open up that can of worms. I've been skiing before. It was so... It's a funny story, but it's also a traumatic story. So I won't talk about it. Over to the side here. But I have been before, just once. I don't think I'll be going again. Bro, what do you mean, can of worms? I need to know now. Alright. So, I think maybe I've told this story on stream once before. So let's see if any people remember. That'd be awesome. But alright, so one time I was at a friend's house, right? And the friend was like, "Hey guys, you know what would be really fun is if we went skiing together." Right? And a lot of my friends when I was a kid were like, would hang out around the like skate parks and I'd be the kid that has a scooter that doesn't do any of the tricks and just is kind of there because I want to be near my friends, right? But we had a sleepover, and I spent the night, and when we woke up in the morning, we all were like, all right, guys, like, we should go skiing. And I was like, I definitely do not want to do this. And so I send a message to my dad, and I'll be like, yo, Dad, I'm going to call you in a second. I'm gonna ask you to go, and I'm going to need you to say something like, sorry, son, you have to help your mother with something when you get home. I just wanted him to say no, right? I call him a couple minutes later, and I ask him, and he says, that sounds like fun, dude. Go, yeah, go. I felt so annoyed. So I was a little bit scared because I have never done that stuff before. But I thought it was, like, looking back on it, it's funny, right? So I went, and my friends, let's just say, were a lot more experienced than me because they do all the skating thing, right? And so when we were there, I can still remove a ton of weight from this. Wow, I can move so much more. Even in the middle too. Oh, wow. They're all pretty good. So they all went on, I think it was, the thing was like a black square that I went on down, right? And I had to take a ski lift, which scared me. We rented out skis. Everybody kept just telling me, dude, if you ever get nervous, just pizza, man, just pizza. And I was like, all right, let's do this thing. They take me on this hill, and going up, I thought it wasn't that steep of an angle. I was like, all right, like, I can do this. Then when I got to the top and I looked down, I realized, like, oh, yo, this is like a 45-degree angle is steep. I don't care what anybody says. A 45-degree angle is steep as shit. Don't, like... So, anyway, I'm a little scared of heights, so I was freaking out just a little bit, right? They all go down without me, right? That's fine. So I'm like, all right, I gotta start cruising here. So I start going down, and I'm going way too fast. And so I'm going down this hill, and I'm freaking, my knees are shaking. I feel like my legs are burning because I have them like mega flexed because I'm so nervous. And anyway, I end up going head over heels, or head over feet, head over toes forward, and one of my skis broke off and stuck straight into, imagine this is the ski, right? Do you see this? Imagine this is ski and this is the hill. It was like stuck straight up, and I was all the way down like 40, maybe like 20 yards, right? And so it was so steep I couldn't walk back up, and so I was just sitting there, and the people on the ski lift were laughing at me. I was like, oh shit, this sucks. And then the David Hasselhoff of skiing comes down, saves the day, grabs my ski, pits it in front of me, and then speeds off. It was like a legend, Anyway, I got my other ski, I put it on, and then I said, what, I need to get down. Like, I need to get down. So after that, I just, no pizza, just straight legs as fast as I could right down to the bottom of the hill. And I smashed into like one of those little foam things at the bottom of the hill. And then I remember I went right to the bathroom. I threw up a whole bunch, and I was like really sweaty and gross. And so I changed out of all my snow gear. Well, I just took all the heavy stuff off, and I took my skis. I called my dad to pick me up, and then he picked me up, and then like right when I got home, the guys, they called me like, dude, where you been? We've been looking for you. And I was like, guys, I left. I didn't even want to be there. So that's the story. was pretty traumatic for me. But I feel like at that time of my life, I was a little bit like, I let me being nervous dictate how much I enjoyed things. So I think if I was to do it now, I actually think I would be good. I was also really like out of shape during that time. And so I think that if I was to redo it, I think I could do a lot better job nowadays. See, this guy, he's popping off in the background. Alright. Alright, I think we're getting close to the desired thickness that we're trying to achieve here. Guys. For this song while going down the mountain would be like a fever dream. Yeah, I agree with you. Oh my gosh, guys, look at how tall that foot is, guys. It's literally like, I know that the lighting's a little really high contrast, but this object just looks like it's just floating when you're looking at it from like an angle here. It's gonna be fun to glaze. Okay. We got... Alright. I'll do these two and then I'll call it. For real this time. Camera A. Figure pain been there. Too much of type though. Yeah, I feel like everybody's had a moment like that. You should definitely try again. Get some of this piano in your ears while gliding down the mountain. Oh, that's where that sequence, like, have faith in your hands, like you have faith in your legs. Yo, that's pretty good. Wow, I kind of look like spooky as shit. I got that Neanderthal brow line, dude. I got a built-in sunglasses. So funny. Alright, I want to test this thickness. Okay, right about there. Across. Okay. Yeah, okay. Camera B. You can see, look at the bottom. You see how the bottom's not even? Even here's not even, and then all of a sudden right here. Because this is where I'm going to be trimming down to. So when you're centering an object, you'll notice your objects are not going to be all perfectly. You'll have some that are way off, some that are kind of off. But what you're really looking for is where do you want to trim to? and center that point, right? I think that will kind of help you make a lot more even things. Okay. Push down. Do you ever put a hole in the bottom of your cup? You know, like glazing the jar shut? It would make a statement. I think I probably could do something like that. The only thing I would say is that the hole at the bottom of the cup, I think, still is a functional object because people would think I was trying to make a flower pot, right? Or some sort of like planter. So I think if I was to do it, it'd have to be like on the side or kind of in a really unorthodox way to have a hole in the bottom. Or like a cup that starts like draining if you fill it up too much and have like a little hidden like flap. I don't know. I can imagine myself doing something like that. For sure. Okay. Anyway. Grab this line. So you can see I'm trying to carve in those valleys and peaks. And I don't go all the way to the middle. I'm right next to the middle. Usually I like to always start from the middle and bring it out. Sometimes I'll go in, but I never cross over the middle when I'm going in, right? I'll start at the middle and then I'll pull that out always, right? What that does too, it allows you to catch the centrifugal force and you'll feel it catch on your tool and then you can carve that flat. I find that sometimes I end up gouging out the middles quite a bit if I start from the outside and go in. Imagine selling your lidded jar to someone, then it blows them up? Wait, what? Are you talking about booby trapping your jars? Or someone just blowing up my jar? I mean, if I sell it to somebody, I guess I don't really care what they do with it, right? All the way through and no bottom at all. I was making a series of these pots with no bottoms and then I was using them as frames for nature. So I'd go, this is back when I was a little bit doing some more granola stuff, and this wasn't even apparent to me at the beginning. Somebody showed it to me, and what they showed me was that the bottom of the vessel is actually like a frame. So you set that around something you think is beautiful, right? So there'd be like two flowers that looked like almost like they were planted next to each other, even though it was like they were wildflowers. But by framing them, you like are making somebody consider that moment by just having this thing, granola, like outdoorsy. But you'd make somebody have some more like attention to what that was framing, right? So I was doing some of those before, and I thought how cool would it be if, you know, if plants are alive and they have thoughts and stuff, right? And they communicate through mycelium networks in the ground, right? Then maybe you don't want to keep them separated in pots. Maybe you want them in the ground, but a pot over top and around it. So bottomless vessels would allow them to still connect to the earth. Again, a little bit more granola thinking, but that's what I was interested in at that time. That's back when I used to have my pink mullet. Flamingo pink mullet. It's a time to be alive. Yeah, like a little ceramic plant collar, yes. That's exactly kind of like what they were. Get that out of there. Come on. There we go. A little bit deeper. Just out this side here. You see how I just slowly walk this right up to that edge. I'm gonna go over top of it with this. Smooth out this middle part one more time. You know, and somebody asked me earlier about polishing, if I polish too. I still want the objects to, like, people who, if anybody was to use these objects, I want them to know that it was still thrown. Right? Like, I feel like if you get rid of all traces of the object being thrown, right? I don't know, I feel like you're losing a little bit. I understand that some styles of making, like, they prefer that, right? But I don't know, there's something about throwing on the wheel that's such a magnificent little thing you're doing. Like, I just think it's a little bit sad that you're trying to hide it away, right? Like, you should be showing that off a little bit. You have some interesting philosophies, man. Diametrically opposed to my own in ways. I am a green wood spoon carver, and always hearing that my spoons are too pretty to be used, but I make them to use. Seeing them used is a great joy to me, and I go through pains to make them ergonomic. Wow, so like when I say that, like, I want to make some objects that aren't used, it's probably a little bit strange, I can see. Sometimes I make things to be used and ergonomic and stuff, but I don't think I enjoy the use of the object, more so the event of the transfer of ownership of the object, right? So, like, I like when I get to make something personal for somebody, right? Like, I did this thing where I made this at my school. There was like this, he was like a gatekeeper, and you'd say, here, I'm coming here to get to school, and he'd open the gate, right? I saw this guy like every single day for 2 years, right? And so I was like, well, you know what? Like, I gotta make something for this guy. So I made him this cup. And it was so awesome because the day that I decided to give it to him, he said, yeah, today's my last day. And I'm leaving after today. And it's so funny that you're giving me a cup, because he asked a local potter to make a cup for his son, that had for in memory of his son, and the potter didn't get to it on time, and the guy was leaving the next day, and so he was like, it was just kind of unfortunate that I couldn't get that from him. But then all of a sudden you showed up with this cup, and so in some way you actually fulfilled my request of getting that cup, even though it doesn't have his name on it. I got to tell you about the story of my son, and now that is held within this object you're giving me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, the object holds something other than just liquids, you know. It actually holds events and memories. And so that's why I thought for a long time, like, who's the best potter, right? And I think, in my opinion, the best potter is someone who makes the most objects that hold events in them, or I like to call them charged objects, right? So, anyway, again, sorry I got off on a tangent. You guys can't get me started on these tangents, yo. I get too, carried away. Right. And so I think, but to the point though, of you doing the ergonomics for the spoons, I think I left the idea of the usability of the objects and kind of laid more into the event that the objects created. So I think that's maybe a place where like we departure from each other a little bit. Yeah, I see your way too. There's like having somebody use like your object and it like to them it fits them perfectly. I can imagine that's also a really rewarding thing, right? That's the cool thing about being a maker, right? Is you can kind of decide these almost like pathologies to adventure down, and you sort of get to have that conversation about your belief on those things using your work, right? And you can see this little line that I'm just slowly walking up to the object here, right? Right to the foot. Just greeting that foot ring, saying, "What's up, foot ring? You miss me, bro?" And the foot ring and says, "Hey, it's been too long, man. It's been too long. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, no problem, dude. You got anything in your fridge?" Look at that. You got a couple of those, what are those things? I think they start with a C, and they're like, they almost look like little, they're pastries. They're like little mini burritos, or like tacos that have like a sweet, almost like an ice cream, or like a whipped cream filling. I'm trying to remember what they're called. Whatever. Story, my little story atmosphere setting has been ruined now because I can't remember the name. I think it starts with a C though. Not a churro. Cannoli! Yes! Yes! A cannoli. Alright, I'll resume. What do you got in here, dude? Look at this. What? Is this what I think it is in your fridge? A mini cannoli? Don't mind if I do. Dude, that was my last cannoli. Come on, man. What are you doing? That's my last cannoli. That's how you gotta talk. You gotta talk to your objects a little bit. Sometimes I wish I had a couple of buddies who would, make things with me. I think that'd be so much fun. Like, while I'm talking about cannolis, they could be, 3D printing a cannoli stamp, and I could just, stamp cannolis on the side of this thing. Another one with a really tall foot. Leave the jar, take the cannoli. I feel like I should just... Oh, I forgot that I have to make an artichoke bowl. I decided I was going to start making things, like specific objects for certain types of food, but I can imagine I make a cannoli jar. Oh, what's that? What's in your jar? Oh, that's just my cannoli jar. I feel like that'd just be awesome. Like, I imagine somebody walking in and be like, what do you mean cannoli jar? I mean what I mean, a cannoli jar. What? Opens it, sticks their hands in there, and just gets like cannoli filling on their finger. Alright, this is the last one. Also the one that's going to have another really deep foot. What is going on with me these days? You can have a little cannoli out of clay as the lid handle piece. I definitely could do that. I made that actually reminds me, it's not far off than something I did before. So I have a coworker at the museum, and she works at this cafe, right? And when I was first starting out there, you know, I'd be like, all right, I gotta socialize a little bit. So I'd go to a cafe and I'd get like a lunch there, right? Just so I could talk to a few of my coworkers, right? And I would get this sandwich, and I remember the first time I got the sandwich, I was eating the sandwich, I was having a dandy, good old time, and I ended up finishing the sandwich, and then all of a sudden when I looked at the paper, I was like, what's underneath here? I lifted it up, and what do you know? It was a pickle, right? She put a pickle underneath of my sandwich, and I was like, oh, that was like such a good surprise. And it inspired me to make this surprise jar where it's like a jar, and there's another lid inside the jar that leads to a secret compartment, right? And so it was just, essentially I was inspired by the surprise, or like this secondary reveal, right? Like the sandwich was already good, right? The same way, the jar is already acting like a jar, but inside of the jar, what do you got? Another lid, and there's a jar inside of the jar. I love that pot. And then I put a pickle on the top of it, and then I gave it to her as a thank you for the idea to make the piece, right? So cannoli jar is definitely in the realm of possibilities for things that I do. Na, na. All right. How centered do we got this? It's actually not really that centered, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool, you know. I wanted to put the pickle in the secondary jar, but then I was like, well, to play with that same surprise, but after I made the pickle, I couldn't fit it into the secondary jar, and I was like, oh, whatever. It just go on the top then. And the jar is beautiful. Like that jar, personally, I just love that jar. It matches Instagram aesthetic, because on my Instagram I think it got a lot of like clicks on it. So I feel like it really has a strong Instagram vibe to it. It was really pretty. It's just a normal, really the opposite of a tree-like form, so outside of the realm of what I normally do. More close to like this sort of stuff, I would say. The last one, guys. Peel it back out. Push this right in. Get to the middle, stop. Go down from the middle. Tilt, peel this back out. Transfer to that other side. There we go. Again, the middle. Pull that out. I think we like the distance here. We're actually going to carve in more from the inside. Oh, wait. No, we don't like it. I thought I liked what was going on in the middle. I just had to double check. Oh, come on. Big booger out of there. Water. I cannot wait to glaze these giant foots on this. I think it's going to be so nice. Okay. I think we might have nailed the... Oh. The weight of this, I think, is great. We don't even have to put it back, do we? We do have to put it back down. It's so close, though. We're not even gonna, we're just gonna suction and be done. We're not even gonna set the other stuff on there. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. That should be good. Zoom. And you can see nice tall foot for the object. Alright guys. That's gonna be it for me. This is the last one in my little bin. I got one more bin to I got one more bin to trim. But I'm gonna leave that for tomorrow. I've probably been streaming for almost 2 hours. Let's see. 2.5 hours. You gotta be kidding me. This way too long. Now I gotta edit all this. But that's okay. Anyway, guys. Camera A. Alright. I know it seems kind of spooky, but thank you guys so much for watching here. I appreciate it. Always enjoy the questions and getting to chill out with you guys. I hope you guys got to listen to some cool sounds and were at least mildly entertained by the pottery making process. But thank you guys. I'll check you in the next one. Peace out. All the best and strong mentality. Bye-bye. Yeah, I'll probably throw tomorrow. That's true. I'll do that. Sorry, I didn't say that. Anyway.